Hi, it's me, Jewish Artist Guy. And if you're Jewish or a supporter of Israel, I have a report for you. Who am I? I'm an artist, poet, and vice president of a non-profit that helps terror victims in Israel. I received a master's in fine art from Oxford University in England, and I also studied film at Columbia. Not every point in this report may seem as meaningful to you as the next, but please stick with me, because it's important you hear the whole report before casting your vote. Barack Obama's personal views on Israel and the Jews have long remained foggy. So is there a discernible pattern to his political influences and alliances? How do Israel and Israel's enemies see it? By connecting the dots, a clear pattern emerges. Percy Sutton, past Manhattan Borough President and former lawyer for Malcolm X, recently recalled on TV how he met Obama about 20 years ago. He said he was introduced by a friend that knew Obama, Dr. Khalid al-Mansour, who asked him to write a letter supporting Obama's application to Harvard. Sutton also said that al-Mansour raises funds for Obama. Who is this al-Mansour? Dr. Khalid Abdullah Tariq al-Mansour, close advisor to the Saudi royal family, in particular Prince al-Walid bin Talal, one of the richest men alive. Prince al-Walid is notorious for offering the $10 million check that Rudy Giuliani refused after he implied the 9/11 attacks were brought on by America's pro-Israel policies. Prince al-Walid's Kingdom Foundation has donated millions to Muslim charities in the U.S., including several whose leaders were brought up on terrorism-related charges. He has given tens of millions to establish university programs in Islamic studies, and he is the largest single donor to that nefarious organization, CARE. Khalid al-Mansour represents OPEC interests and sits on the board of the prince's main investment fund. He has represented him internationally for over 25 years. Could this be one reason why Obama is against implementing nuclear power, offshore drilling, and other measures which would help end the flow of American money to Saudi Arabia? At the same time, U.S. dependence on Arab oil gives Arabs leverage with the U.S. to make demands of Israel. Back in the 1960s, al-Mansour was still known as Donald Warden, the radical mentor of Black Panther Party founder Huey Newton. His more recent commentary is not only anti-American, it's also anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. Al-Mansour is the author of a booklet entitled Americans Beware, the Zionist Plot Against Saudi Arabia. On Israel, he says the Jews were guilty of, quote, stealing the land the same way the Christians stole the land from the Indians in America, unquote. Quote, today the Palestinians are being brutalized like savages, unquote, he told a South African crowd. Quote, if you protest, you will go to jail, and you may be killed. And they say they are the only democratic country in the Middle East. They are lying on God, unquote. For his part, al-Mansour was unwilling to comment on Sutton's story, explaining, any statement that I made would only further this activity, which is not in the interest of Barack, unquote. In his sermons, Obama's pastor of 20 years, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, blamed America for bringing on itself the events of 9/11 because it, quote, supported state terrorism against the Palestinians and black South Africans, unquote. Obama conveniently claims to have missed this and other controversial sermons. This is the church that Obama said he did not think was, quote, particularly controversial, unquote. He thought the pastor was like an, quote, old uncle, unquote. Yet, this is the same old uncle whose church newsletter warmly carried the official Hamas manifesto. Wright is a Marxist-influenced pastor who bestowed a Lifetime Achievement Award on someone who was not even a fellow Christian, but was well known as an anti-Semite, Louis Farrakhan, leader of the Nation of Islam. Farrakhan once said, quote, now that nation called Israel never has had any peace in 40 years, and she will never have any peace, because there can be no peace structured on injustice, thievery, lying, and deceit, and using the name of God to shield your gutter religion under his holy and righteous name, unquote. He also called Hitler, quote, a very great man, unquote. Obama also maintained close ties with another radical Chicago priest, Father Pfleger, who similarly sings the praises of Farrakhan. Meanwhile, in a speech he gave recently, Farrakhan has suggested that Obama may be, quote, the Messiah, unquote. No surprise then that Obama himself took part in Farrakhan's Million Man March and appeared on the same church magazine cover as Farrakhan, or that Michelle Obama was photographed with Farrakhan's wife. In fact, according to an investigative report by Debbie Schlissel, a number of Nation of Islam members were given key positions by Obama. For example, Cynthia K. Miller, a member of the Nation of Islam, was Obama's treasurer of his U.S. Senate campaign. Another member, Jennifer Mason, has been Obama's director of constituent services in his U.S. Senate office, and she has selected Obama's Senate interns. Obama's pastor even joined Farrakhan on a trip to Libya to pay Colonel Gaddafi a friendly visit. Since then, the Libyan leader has added some alarming comments to the election season. Quote, "There are elections in America now. Along came a black citizen of Kenyan African origins, a Muslim, who had studied in an Islamic school in Indonesia. His name is Obama. All the people in the Arab and Islamic world and in Africa applauded this man. They welcomed him and prayed for him and for his success, and they may have even been involved in legitimate contribution campaigns to enable him to win the American presidency," unquote. Gaddafi also said very recently, quote, "Africa and the Arab world are ready to back and finance Barack Obama as long as he helps the oppressed populations," unquote, and asked Obama not to defend Israel to the same degree as other American presidents. Indeed, as Obama's campaign has received record amounts of funding, $150 million for the past month alone, it has raised lots of questions about where the money is coming from. Unlike McCain's website and those of most online businesses, Obama's campaign website accepts credit cards from donors whose entered names and addresses do not match the cards. The fact that his campaign refuses to make public any donations below $200 only adds fuel to the fire. As Palestinian activist Ali Abumina, a past friend of Obama's and co-founder of the Electronic Intifada, states on his website, quote, "Money and votes, but especially money, channeled through sophisticated and coordinated networks that can bundle small donations into million-dollar chunks, are what buy influence on policy." Other known anomalies include the example of two Palestinian brothers living in a Hamas refugee camp in Gaza who somehow had the funds to spend $31,300 in Obama's online store. Ali Abumina says he would meet Obama at Palestinian and Arab American community events in Chicago, such as a May 1998 community fundraiser at which Edward Said, Palestinian propagandist, advisor to Arafat, and known fabricator of history, was the keynote speaker. Pictures show that Obama and his wife dined and spoke with Said at the same table. Abumina also says he saw Obama in 2004 when he was in a primary race for the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate. When he went to greet his friend, Obama warmly began, quote, "Hey, I'm sorry I haven't said more about Palestine right now, but we are in a tough primary race. I'm hoping when things calm down, I can be more upfront," unquote. Then Obama praised his activism and his pieces for the Chicago Tribune, which criticized Israeli and U.S. policy, quote, "Keep up the good work," unquote. Abumina claims Obama's public shift on Israel has simply been to secure Jewish money and votes. Thus, Obama made the obligatory election season speech at AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and said all the right things. For example, quote, "Let me be clear. Israel's security is sacrosanct. It is non-negotiable. Jerusalem will remain the capital of Israel, and it must remain undivided," unquote. But following Arab criticism of these remarks, Obama's campaign swiftly responded within a day and made known that the status of Jerusalem was very much negotiable. So much for being clear.